For my 5D collective, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. We have some channeled guidance through our lovely Spirit Animal Oracle deck. This is Colette Barron. So we're starting with the mind. The mind, as we have been discussing, is a beautiful, beautiful instrument. But for those who do personal development and or good childhood trauma, as well as awareness of trauma, PTSD, there's moral injury, there are to be taken seriously a number of equations for a person who understands the aspect of body-mind alignment. And so that your mind interprets what comes up, but what comes up can be overwhelming in a way that most people who are not interested in their inner and outer well-being will not notice. And that's not because of basically not having the opportunity. No, there is and there are, at this point in 2023, a lot of good psycheducators, a lot of good educators, neuroscientists, biologists. I see them always on YouTube, but it must be my algorithm, right? Because I get to pick what I'm going to see, what I'm going to watch. And I also get to use my mind to do what? To turn knowledge into wisdom. But wisdom can only come from a person who can be aligned in a way of 5D. The oneness consciousness is you understanding your left mode and your right mode of the brain. They have two different functions. We use them equally. However, if there's unresolved trauma, if there are attachment wounds, if there's a way that you don't have a relationship with your emotional body, which we'll get to after, right now we're going to do the mind, but the emotional body of the 3-year-old, if it's not a whole heart, so you haven't been able to reparent and or again become the adult version of you emotionally, there's going to be I like to call it ego stuff, but it's the charged states and the adaptive child. So adaptive child emotional behavior is I'm going to prove that I'm right. So they have low self-esteem because they don't know that they're not superior and inferior, and not from their head, from their body. When you from your body are a differentiated self, it means that you may use all the words in this day and age. I was a teenager and I began already moving into softness. The ventral vagal nervous system state is when you are in your integrated brain, because it means I'm interacting with you, my social system network, because we have a social network in our brain besides attachment system in our brain, from the neuroscience, the mental health, psych educators. They have a bunch of different titles. I'm just learning all about it in different ways, so I am not going to ever be perfect in how I present this information. So please, again, bear with it. But here, with open ears, your mind and my mind are equally accessible to this plane of integration of the brain. The people who have a challenge, that's why we have the neuroscientific community, the mental health community. They are the ones who can provide the good ones, as even our lovely Patrick Tiahan, childhood trauma survivor, healed and also healing and creating a community. He shares, as do a lot of good psycheducators, that there are not all these great psycheducators who can hold space for a child that needs somebody to be able and hold space, a safe space where you can share your story and that you get taught you're not your diagnoses. Your unfinished business can be addressed by you. This is why attachment system and you're learning about self-regulation and learning about when curveballs, as we've been talking about, because we just did have a shift and there's a bunch of people, they're not moving into 5D. It's not because of something humongous. It's because they chose to say humans are evil. And life is evil and suffering. And I'm going to keep learning how to use my teenage story with my 3-year-old who is heartbroken with a shame, blame, fault, revenge, defectiveness. Humans are defective, so they didn't use their mind in a way of life threw me a curveball and I'm very emotional and I'm going to be processing. No, they used the inner critic and outer critic, the rumination cycle, and the neuroplasticity in a negative way to say the story. People abandon you. You have no good friends. They're always spiteful and mean when they need something. That's when they're around. When they don't, they don't. So humans are not to be trusted. And, oh, wait a minute, I'm also a martyr and suffering, because this is where some people with clairs, they think that they are saviors in this way of actually relating themselves to, it's not only the clairland people though, they're not good psychology people. I've learned from good psychology people about these people, which is why we need to spread the word about good therapy for those who have childhood trauma, because they're the victims of the spiritual people in 4D land who sell them magic wands, and the bad psych educators who actually have their patients become basically like codependent on them. And in both cases, this is not something that is necessary. Today, we have plenty of ways to distribute good information, means conversation. So nobody's telling somebody else what to do. No, learn about your brain, learn about your mind. Okay, so obstacles. Here's where when people ruminate, they're in a biochemistry of fear. They don't turn their knowledge into wisdom, because the emotions that arise are defined as, oh, they made it happen. Life made it happen. There's not allowing oneself to actually say, I'm facing what is a challenge and I'm going to take a deep dive into nothing, into silence. I'm going to allow myself to know that I transform this moment. So that's why people don't typically move into 5D. I've seen it. It's been like years, since 2007. It's because they'd rather use a story, and they ruminate and they blame humanity, and they don't just sit and say, you know what, I got dealt unknown, unexpected, unwanted. That's it. I'm just going to deal with it. And that's processing the emotion. Obviously, not just that's it. The sphere of how you transform, that's where your prediction machine is your left mode chit chatter. So if you allow yourself to remember you're an emotional being and you mature your emotional being, if you need extra help, there's people that are there. And this is where Patrick Tiahan points out red flags to notice if you are a person who potentially has childhood trauma. When you see a child being coddled, feeling like you want to throw up, or feeling upset about it, being cynical, being like negative about, when you see gooey compassion. If you can't handle compassion, this is from other good therapists, it's because you're not ready to meet your 3-year-old, your 1-year-old. The minute you twist your nose at compassion, it means your body actually is not inclined to be open to your own attachment system, to your own emotional body, your own emotional well-being, because if you didn't get it in those first 18 months of life. And so here's where to be fearless and bold when it comes to that sensation is something that a person can dive into, and some have done that. And it was a little bit torturous, but it was something worth it because of learning how to be in the here and now in your body. So once you can sit with your sensations, as even our lovely Bessel van der Kolk spells out, that's when you can begin to notice your patterns. And that's when you can say, okay, I want to get out of these attachment wounds. I want to trust in my magic to turn things around in my life, physically speaking. And I want to have fun. So yes, I got thrown curveballs. I definitely did, but I've come out wiser than before, and I can see that sometimes I used my time in ways that I didn't need to. So I learned from my past. I learned about habits, because see, when you have attachment wounds and trauma, unresolved trauma memory that you're not aware of, the part of what we do with the shame cycle is that there's denying the emotions, shoving them back down with sex, drugs, alcohol, food. It's not the devil, that temptation. No, it's your body needs self-soothing or soothing, because your nervous system has a window of tolerance when it comes to emotions. So getting to have a relationship with your emotional body is step one for those who don't have one, but understanding that a good therapist is needed for that. Step two is those who have a window of welcome to emotions. There we go. We're doing personal development easily and straightforwardly, and you're laying a good foundation. So now that you know how to work with your left and right mode, and not to sit in rumination, but to sit in contemplation, you apply that inner growth mindset, you tap into your infinite higher human consciousness potential, and you trust the great mystery of life. You can dive to the depths of your emotional body. The most amazing part is to be able to have a full relationship with your mind and your heart, and your body. That's the Human 101. So restored embodied self, integrated brain. It's all about emotional regulation skills. Relationships support us. It's minus the drama though. So tune in for more.